Today, we have the opportunity to talk to Josh Ziegelbaum of the Legacy Group, where he is the Director of Investor Relations and is based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He is responsible for managing investor communications, onboarding individual and commercial clients, as well as overall support of the company's initiatives. The Legacy Group is an alternative asset manager that targets profitable investment opportunities with high social and environmental impact in Latin America. They generate value by leveraging their team's local knowledge and international expertise to provide a direct link between the investments in developing markets and the rest of the world. They give their investors the chance to invest directly in projects that not only produce favorable returns, but also have a positive social and environmental impact on the relevant stakeholders. Josh is originally from New Jersey, where he studied economics at Rutgers University.
Be the change you want to see. Make a difference by giving your money a purpose, a mission to do good. Welcome to Money with Mission, where we show you how to create passive income so that you have options for how to work and how to live your life while leaving a legacy of positive social impact.
Hi, Josh. Thank you so much for coming on to Money with Mission. How are you today?
Hi, Felicia. I'm doing great. And thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Hey, I'm glad to have you here. I'm really interested in hearing more about Legacy Group and what you guys are doing. And I was really excited to learn more about you. You're in Florida. We were just talking about this. So
I've lived in the area for 4 years. I'm originally from the Northeast, where we have 4 seasons and typical weather that everyone's accustomed to. But it's been great down here. It's a really cool place to live and work. I had the experience of being here pre-COVID, coming down in 2018. So I was able to kind of witness this influx of people and of economic activity in the area. And it's really exciting. A lot of things going on. Great place to live, work, and visit. So I sound like I'm an ambassador for the mayor or something, but it's a really cool place.
There's a lot going on in Florida right now. I know a lot of my friends who are syndicators and real estate investors are looking at Florida really, really hard because of how much is going on there right now. Plus, economically, the climate there for investors and for homeowners who rent is better than a lot of other places. And there's some other stuff going on. And we'll just move right on past politics into talking about what you're doing with Legacy Group. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Director of Investor Relations for Legacy Group, and we're an alternative asset manager. I'd say a boutique private equity firm that targets investment opportunities in Latin America. So we invest heavily in Colombia specifically. And our flagship portfolio company is Green Coffee Company, which is the largest coffee producer in the country there. And it's a private investment offering that we open up for US-based investors, hence my US presence. We have about 300 investors who participated with us across several funding rounds. But yeah, I head up investor communications, onboarding, kind of business development initiatives in terms of getting the business the capital it needs to thrive. The partners at Legacy Group live and work in Medellin, Colombia, where I of course, a few times a year, but we have a couple Florida-based team members, 2 VPs are on the team, one in Miami and the other in St. Petersburg. So we definitely have a Florida presence, but the investments themselves that we make are in Latin America.
Okay, so it's a portfolio company. The Green Coffee Company is not your only company, but everything that Legacy Group does is in Colombia?
To date, yes. Now,
that's what. Future, who knows, but right now.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a US presence, and it's important to note that the investment structure itself is domiciled in the US. So our investors participate in a US-based parent company, but all the assets of the coffee company, at least today, are in Colombia. We control 6,700 acres of land and over 7 million coffee trees, and we're growing that. Part of our growth plans in the years to come would be to build a US-based roaster facility. And we may do that in Florida or Texas. So I'd expect a US presence to kind of pick up from an operational perspective. But at least right now, it's holding company structure and some members at Legacy Group who are here in the States.
How long have you guys been with Green? How long has Green Coffee Company been around? Why coffee? Why Colombia? Just answer those questions for us.
Sure. So 2017 is the year in which the company was founded. So just over 5 years to date. It was founded by one of the partners at Legacy Group, Cole Shepard. And while it's a company that we've invested in personally, the management team at Legacy Group, it's been primarily funded with investor capital. So we have an American team, so to speak, at the top of the ladder at Legacy Group. So the two partners are from the Northeast originally, as it was myself. One is a former corporate attorney, and the other former corporate accountant, and myself, a former private banker. So we have, a very seasoned team as it relates to financial services, raising capital, structuring deals, doing mergers and acquisitions. I would say we've all kind of flocked to Latin America as an area that's ripe for opportunity. The two partners ended up traveling through Medellin specifically just prior to 2017, and kind of saw that there was so much opportunity for arbitrage-like returns, whether that's in real estate or private company investments. It's just that the businesses there are relatively antiquated. And if you apply first world tactics, you can really disrupt entire industries. And we've been able to become the largest coffee producer with under $40 million deployed of investor capital. And we're growing. Now we launched a $100 million funding round. But I don't think you can upend an industry as significant as coffee is in Colombia, an industry here in the US with under 40 million in capital. So, kind of just ripe for disruption, I would say. There's a strong labor pool there. And from an economic perspective, it's definitely capitalistic. So it's open for business. Colombia has a great relationship with the US on a business level. So a variety of reasons. And then coffee itself and Colombia are synonymous with one another. It's a national product there. And kind of why coffee? I mean, it's a staple product, one that most of us consume on a daily basis. There's over 2 billion cups consumed,
or more than once daily for me.
Yeah, or more than once, right? And it's something that many of us love and kind of adore in good economic times and bad. Your preferences might change in terms of how you might consume it. So instead of going to a specialty coffee shop, you might make it at home. But
yeah,
most of us will continue to drink coffee. And in an inflationary environment such as the one that we're in, with a lot of uncertainty and such on a global level, being in commodities is a great place to be in terms of a hedge against inflation. We created the project as somewhat of an alternative to syndicated real estate investments, where investors would participate in a multifamily building and get rights to its cash flow.
right.
Investors that work with us today and even started with us, they kind of like the idea of like, okay, well, I could own a pool of real assets, whether that's land and it's productive land. So instead of rent, it's commodities that are being produced. So us and our investors can wrap their heads around that well. And then being on the ground there gives us, access to information and opportunities for our investors. So a bunch of reasons, some of which I touched on, others I didn't, but we're very bullish on Colombia and on coffee.
Got it. So I have a lot of questions, and I'm going to go to the environmental and social impact stuff right now, because we talked a lot so far about capitalism and how things go, and I can just hear my listeners going, what the heck does she have this guy on here for? Because all they're about is making money. What's the impact? And I know you guys are really look at the environmental and social impacts that you do have where you are. So talk about how that works, and how if you're actively measuring it, or you're taking a general look and seeing how people are doing. Talk to me about how those things are working.
Yeah, so the investment itself is most certainly an impact investment at its core. And let's start, I guess, with the environmental component. So we use planting practices that reduce waste. We use biodegradable pods through a system called the Elipot system, where we pump out coffee seedlings, so the smaller plants before they're planted, in a biodegradable manner. Whereas traditionally, it's large plastic bags that creates tons and tons of waste, which is, of course, toxic for the environment. We also reduce water. We monitor weather patterns with technology. So we have sensory equipment in the ground and in the sky that can kind of track trends, and then we're proactive in our care to the plants, I would say. We're working on a solar project. So on one of our latest processing facilities that we opened last year, we're building out a solar farm in that region, and then also going to be doing solar on the roof of that building in order to create a sustainable ecosystem. We are really revolutionizing the way in which coffee is made, and usually it's still picked by hand, but everything is done in a really kind of fashion that you wouldn't really expect here in the US. And that kind of takes us to, I guess, the social component. So traditionally, the coffee industry in Colombia is a business that people are paid informally. So they would be paid in cash without benefits. And it's just been done like that for generations, where, you know, there's really no support from a government level or from an employer level for those that work on the farms or that produce the coffee. So we provide fair employment, and we pay people above average or equal wages, and we pay them into bank accounts so they could build credit. It's not in a manner that they're paid in cash. We pay into pensions at the government level, time off, you know, fringe and benefits and everything. So
Okay.
that's something that's just not done. So formalizing employment at our greenhouses, where we're planting those seedlings to get ready to plant on our farms, we employ a group of single mothers, and we provide them jobs that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. We're the largest employer in the town of Salgar, where we're currently operating.
Okay.
And we've been recognized on the local level. So the Colombian Minister of Agriculture recently gave us an award for innovation in agriculture, and we've also been recognized by Forbes Colombia for a similar capacity. So it's not just us saying it; we're being recognized there at a local level. And while I led with investment and returns and capitalism, we definitely focus on impact, and we have an entire presentation on it as well.
No, I know you do, and that's why I wanted to make sure that everybody did understand that. So to acquire your land, are there farms already working and you're buying them and improving them, or how are you acquiring, or what land are you acquiring?
So all the farms to date are in Antioquia, which is the state where Medellin is, and it's the town of Salgar and the surrounding area there. They've been done through a series of acquisitions, since 2018. So we've done acquisitions in our seed funding round, our Series A, our B, and now we're in our Series C round. That's from an investment perspective. But when we raise capital, we deploy it into farmland. Now, how do we buy that? It's smaller landholding families that have owned the properties for generations, and they don't really have a liquid market where they can sell their property. So we're that buyer. So people are approaching us now. In the past, we would approach them and we still have conversations that go on for months, often years, where we negotiate terms, payment schedules, but it's all off market. You speak to someone, you speak to their cousin, their uncle, it's like the whole family is involved in many cases. We'll often buy with seller financing, so we'll be able to make a payment or a portion of the payment up front, and then we'll be able to take control of the assets and the production of those assets in terms of coffee, and then we'll structure, you know, favorable seller financing terms where we could pay back those farms over a series of installments. And to date, we've sort of backed out of that with investor capital as it comes in. So we're able to take control without all the outlay, and then that's sort of how the acquisitions are done. In certain cases, we do them just all cash up front. It's a combination of cash and or seller financing and off market.
And are they current coffee farms, or they were coffee farms, or it's just bare land and you're turning it into a coffee farm?
Yes. So often, or almost always, it's existing coffee farms. So and in certain cases, they'll be run optimally. We'll take over, and not a tremendous amount of work would be done in order to get them continuously producing. In other cases, they're underdeveloped, where there's not enough the opportunity for more trees to be planted, or for the coffee trees to be cared for in a better manner, whether that's from sustainability or other ways. So it's usually always coffee land, I think, to date. However, depending on the state of that land, that'll kind of determine the price that we're willing to pay. So if it requires a lot of value add, you know, obviously we would need to pay a deeper discount, but yes, coffee land is what we aim to acquire.
And I assume you have soil scientists go in there and take a look at it when you're talking about how much value add are we going to have to do. Most of the value adds adding trees and making the soil better. So you have all those kind of people on your team that are looking at that. Yeah.
Let me touch on that. So the CEO who we've appointed for Green Coffee Company is Boris Woolner. He's a 25-year agricultural veteran in Colombia. He's an agro-industrial engineer by trade, so he has a very strong background in understanding what it takes to make coffee grow successfully and what needs to be done in order to optimize it. Underneath him, we have an advisor who was the previous head agronomist for Starbucks in Colombia. That's Marino Restrepo. And so we have a Colombian management team at the portfolio company level that really understands the local market, and the kind of list goes on with other guys that help. But I would say from understanding the soil and acquisitions, Boris and Marino do a great job of that.
Got it. Do very many of the farmers who sell you their land continue to work there? And how are you guys, or I'm assuming you are, because I know environmental and social impact are important to you, improving their lives so that they've sold their land just for whatever reason they decided to sell it, but needed to continue to work there? You said you're paying fair wages, you have pensions, or doing all those kinds of things. Is there, or do most of them sell and we're out, we're moving on to something else now?
Yeah, it's a great question, Felicia. It depends really on what they're looking for. So often it'll be they want out and they want to move to Miami or move to New York if it's a younger person who inherited it from maybe a family member, and they kind of either want to liquidate a portion or all of their portfolio. So in those cases, if they don't want to be involved, we're not going to force them to, of course. But a recent acquisition we did this year, where we took over a sizable amount of land, the person who was in charge of that land and now was working for us. So Juliana Maya is the person's name, and her family sold us, a portfolio of assets earlier in the year, and now she manages the land on behalf of the company, essentially. So it's a whole nother group of employees that came along with her as well, that we were able to bring in. So it depends, but
You
yes,
guys are very flexible in that, it sounds like.
yeah, but in cases when it makes sense for both parties, we absolutely will bring the family or the employees along with us with the acquisition.
Got it. So now we're talk about the investment a little bit. You're most of the people listening are into this podcast we talk about real estate investing, and we don't talk about Series A, Series B, Series C, and that kind of thing. So I'm sure people heard that and kind of was like, aren't sure what that means and how that works. So the investment, when you invest in Green Coffee Company, what are you actually investing in?
So as an investor, you would own common equity in the US-based parent company or the holding company here. So think of that as owning shares in a company such as, let's call it Coca-Cola, where you own, as a shareholder, you have rights to its cash flows. Obviously, we're very different from Coca-Cola. I'm just using a name that people know. We could use Apple if we'd like. But
Starbucks. Okay.
Yeah, or Starbucks. I wanted to stay away from that one. But they would own common equity in the US-based business, and that business owns all the operating subsidiaries. So where we have land and production on that land, and where we have employees employed, those are all that's done by operating subsidiaries in Colombia. Those are wholly owned by our investors here at the top of the chain, at the parent level. So investors own common equity in a company that owns real estate, and but it's really an operating business. So there's more upside in certain cases, or at least in our projections, there's significantly more upside than you would find in a typical real estate investment. But investors who do invest in real estate like it because they can understand the real asset component that goes with it. So it's open for accredited investors specifically. So it have to be high net worth guys and girls that either have high income or high net worth. Like I said, we have 300 investors to date, and they own common equity. And you asked about seed A, B. Those are kind of fancy words for round 1, round 2, round 3.
Right.
So the seed round was the first round that we initiated that funded the idea of acquiring the first portfolio of assets. We initiated that in 2017 and 2018. A is round 2. That was a little add-on. Series B we did last year. That's round 3. And now we're in the fourth formal round, which is the Series C round. Now, what that means is it's just a round where we're raising capital in order to help the business achieve its long-term objectives.
Okay. So when I invest in Legacy Group, and that's where actually my investment, and I don't know if that's the official name of the company, but we'll call it Legacy Group. My investment is in Legacy Group, and I own a part of everything under that in Green Coffee Company, we'll say, and all the different companies under Green Coffee Company are a part of what I own, and I make money off of all of those, correct?
That is correct. However, the investments in Green Coffee Company Holdings and
Got it.
Legacy Group, we are the asset manager.
Got it. Sorry, thank you. Okay.
But everything else is exactly right. They would invest in Green Coffee Company Holdings, and then they would own all of the assets underneath it. So whether that's the farms, the employees, the roasting facility when that comes online. We're also working to monetize the byproduct or the waste from the coffee cherry, which is now garbage, and we're looking to monetize it into a liquor byproduct. So all of that flows up to the investors, and the kind of the goal here, you or your listeners might be wondering, okay, well, how does this all play out? How do I get paid, or how does the investment wind down?
Yes, how's it wind down? That's where
So it's a private company with a goal of becoming a publicly traded company. So an investor today would own shares of common equity in a private enterprise. And we have an exit strategy of going public through an IPO in US markets with a target year of 2026. So as an investor, should that be the exit, instead of owning private shares based on the percentage owned, they would own public shares. And that's kind of what we're forecasting to achieve in the years to come.
Okay. Is there a tax benefit to the investors or depreciation? Do all those things flow through to an investor, or does this come through as cash flow, capital gains, that kind of thing?
So there aren't direct benefits that you would find in a traditional real estate investment in the US, such as depreciation. So and the reason for that is because the real assets behind it are not in the United States. So we're not able to depreciate those and have them flow over to investors through a K-1. So it is set up as an LLC, but we've elected to be taxed as a C Corp. So what that means is it's a capital gain type structure where when investors sell shares at a later date, whether we sell the company or it goes public and they decide to sell a portion of their shares or all of them, that would be a taxable event at that point. And then based on the profits that they make, they would have to pay taxes at their own level. So we would issue a 1099 to our investors in the event of a dividend or in the event that they sold shares in the company.
Got it. So is there regular cash flow? Maybe I made an assumption that there was.
We are modeling in dividends into the investor presentation. If they would be paid, it would be paid on an annual basis. Now, I would look at it more as a growth investment. So the bulk, if not all of the return, would be realized at exit when we either sell the company or go public. We're forecasting net 11x return on capital. That would not be achieved in the next 4 years through cash flow. If we were to pay cash flow, it would be single digit or low double digit. And really the bulk of the total return would be at sale or IPO.
At exit. Okay.
And
I was going to go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to touch on one other point because I didn't. You asked, is it a stock that's asset backed? It's most definitely a balance sheet business. As we raise capital from investors, we deploy it into land and facilities that process coffee, as opposed to investing in like a tech startup where all the value is in intellectual property and the valuations are through the roof. We have a sub 100 million valuation today, 67.5 to be exact, 67.5 million pre-money on this new round. And that's all in assets today, pretty much. It's a small multiple of the total assets. So investors are investing in a company or shares in a company, but like I said, it's a company that owns 6,700 acres, over 7 million coffee trees, and multiple processing facilities.
Got it. And I want to go back to something you said early on, but I want to make sure people understand that this is a US based company that you're investing in who has a product in Latin America, correct? So you are subject, when you do your investment, it's subject to the United States laws, rules, and all the SEC, all those kinds of things. It's not that you're investing in a company in Latin America. Okay,
that's right. And our investors love that because we've made it as easy and frictionless as possible for them to get access to alternative investments outside the US with a US structure.
Yes. Now I've talked about on the previous episodes about investing in coffee, but we talked about it a little differently, and you and I spoke about this. So I just want to make sure that it's clear to people. There's there's a way you can invest in actually the land itself, and then you own a piece of property that's growing coffee, even though it's managed by whoever it's managed by. How is, I'm going to let you talk about why you think your product is a better, or how is it different better? Go ahead. I'll ask it that way.
Sure. So we're very familiar with the parceled land holding type of product that you're mentioning. And then there could be a spot for that in an investor's portfolio. It's more a cash flow oriented investment where you would own 1 acre of corn or lime or coffee, and then that would be managed by an asset manager. And then based on the production of that land or that particular piece of land that you own, you would be entitled to some cash flows. Now, how much upside is there in terms of exiting? Like, what is it worth when you go to sell it? Maybe you can get what you paid for, or maybe it's a little higher, but you're not going to be making multiples on your money, essentially, in terms of an exit, at least in a short period of time, such as 3 to 5 years. So with an operating company, it has the assets that produce the cash flow. However, there's more upside because there's multiple verticals. It's not just growing coffee on 1 acre and selling it and getting the cash. It's all the sustainability practices. It's the green coffee business. It's the roasted business. It's the byproduct business. It's a fully vertically integrated company from farm to, it's a B2B, I was going to say to the consumer, it's a B2B product now. So with that, an investor would be owning shares, not to repeat kind of what I said earlier, owning shares in an earlier stage private company that has much more upside potential than just an asset. You can't take the home that I'm sitting in and put it public on the stock exchange and expect that you're going to get rewarded heavily, because all single family homes in downtown Fort Lauderdale in this area are, it's not, there's no market for that in a public manner. You wouldn't be able to turn around and sell it for 10 times more in a matter of years. So with a company that's operating, let's use a company that buys and sells real estate and has an innovative model as an example. If you own shares in that company and it's an innovative company that's changing an industry, there's much more upside than just owning the home that produces rent.
That was good. That was good. Thank you. That I hope that made sense, or it made sense to me, and it made it much clearer to me. When we had talked before, I was getting it, but that helped a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Josh, this has been really good. Tell people how to get in touch with you, because I'm sure there's somebody out there wanting to know more. I know you guys have a YouTube channel, you got a website. Tell people how to get to you.
Yes, please. You can find us on our website at legacy-group.co. And you could also send us an email to get in touch at investor.relations@legacy-group.co. You could also find us on YouTube under Legacy Group. Would love to connect with anyone if they'd like to learn more about what we're doing. And we send out a regular newsletter that keeps our investors updated and prospective investors. So looking forward to hopefully hearing from some of your listeners after the show.
Perfect. Hey guys, I will have everything he just said, because I know you're doing something other than writing down what he just said. It'll be in the show notes, so you'll be able to connect. Go there. Even if you go to the YouTube channel and start looking at the things that they're doing and listening to some of the people who are living in, I can't remember the name of the city, that city in Colombia, and how what they're doing is improving the city and improving the economy of the city. It's pretty impressive stuff. So take a look at that. It'll all be in the show notes. Take a look. Josh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Felicia, thank you.
You listen to Money with Mission podcast because you want to change lives while having your own financial return. You want to make a difference. You are a philanthro investor. The company Philanthro Investors was founded to financially support companies and individuals of goodwill who are making a positive social impact on planet Earth. The vision of Philanthro Investors is a world in which every family can have the opportunity to live in their own happy home, in which every individual can have easy access to organic, natural food, where animals and humans can drink clean water and breathe clean air. A world in which lives are protected from structural damage through innovative construction plans and materials. A world without electrical structures, full of renewable energy. A world without illiteracy, where disease is a distant past. A world where artistic talents are developed, appreciated, and adequately rewarded. You can have true financial freedom with the knowledge, control, and high purpose of philanthro investing and achieve a true legacy. Learn more at moneywithmission.com. Click opportunities, then click philanthro investors.
You've been listening to Money with Mission. There are projects happening right now where you can have a great financial return while positively affecting the lives of others. To learn more about our opportunities, go to moneywithmission.com.